What's up, everyone? We're going to be going through the best NBA player props on PrizePicks today. Now, don't forget to like this video, as it does let me know to continue to give you free picks every day. So make sure to like this video, clicking that button down below. And if we get 600 likes, I will do another video for tomorrow. Now, I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group. And as you guys see, we actually got 22 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. Now, a lot of you comment wanting to see how many I got wrong, and I thought I'd show you in today's video. We only got 0 picks wrong and got 22 right, which is a 100% win rate. Yes, guys, we went perfect, having a 100% win rate. So we're on a huge hot streak. But if you want to get a 100% win rate and get 22 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord and meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon. Should be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure you join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $2,646 just yesterday. Another member who won $800 for the 6th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description. So go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group. And I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. So quick shout out to Lone Viking, who said let's make that cheddar. And shouts out to Adolf Uso2384, who said okay cool, found it, thanks. So shouts out to them. And if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below in this video and like it, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. All right, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we're going to talk about is Aaron Wiggins, and this one is for points and rebounds for 17.5, and this one actually is for less. Now, looking at Aaron Wiggins, we actually have seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, you see on January 12th, faced off against Miami Heat, had 13 points and rebounds there. January 14th, faced off against the San Antonio Spurs, had 10 points and rebounds in that matchup. Then January 16th, actually faced off against Houston Rockets, had 10 points and rebounds, 24 points and rebounds against Miami on January 18th. Then January 20th, faced off against Cleveland Cavaliers and had 18 points and rebounds there. So very interesting to see. Obviously, looking at someone like Aaron Wiggins, we have definitely seen him do a decent job, but he has gone on the under more than going on the over, which is, you know, kind of working out in our favor there. And we also do see that his average over the last 5 is also 15. So very interesting to see there. Now, looking at this matchup, we do also know that Aaron Wiggins and Oklahoma City Thunder do face off against Toronto Raptors. So it is definitely going to be an exciting game between both of these teams. Now, looking at where both of these teams do actually lie, starting off with OKC, we actually do know that Oklahoma have definitely done a great job so far this season. They actually come in a very good position at that #1 spot in the Western Conference. But not only that, but we also do see when it comes to Aaron Wiggins and OKC, not only do they have the #1 spot in the Western Conference, but they have the #1 spot in the entire league. So they are a great team. OKC have shown time and time again why they deserve to be on top. And looking at this matchup, we do know they face off against a Raptors team that has also done very well, as they actually come in at the 4th spot in the Eastern Conference. Now, looking at the record for Thunder, however, 37 wins, 9 losses, and 80.4% win percentage there. They're also 20-3 from home, 17-5 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So very interesting to see from them. Obviously, looking at OKC, they have been able to absolutely dominate, and they face off against a Raptors team, as I mentioned, that ranked 4th, but they also have 28 wins, 19 losses, a 59.6% win percentage there. They're also 13-10 from home, 15-9 from away, and are currently on a 3-game win streak. So very interesting to see from them. Now, looking at Toronto Raptors and where they do rank defensively, it is pretty interesting to see, because we do see that Toronto Raptors, starting off with points allowed, they do actually rank 6th, allowing 112.2 points per game. So you actually do see them do a fantastic job at restricting, you know, points in that category. Then looking at rebounds allowed, Raptors do also rank somewhat decent, as they rank 14th, actually allowing 43.6 rebounds per game. So very, very good from them there. So overall, Raptors have definitely put on quite a show because they've definitely done very well in both categories. But what we also do see when it comes to Toronto is that they actually do a fantastic job at restricting points and rebounds to Aaron Wiggins' position. So that's a big reason why we do very much like the under for someone like Wiggins coming into this game. Although OKC is a fast-paced team, we are expecting Toronto to slow down the pace of this game quite a lot, and that slower pace will definitely lead to less volume and less opportunity to score and rebound for someone like Aaron. Now, when we look at Wiggins over his last couple of games against Toronto Raptors, now he only has played them last season. Now, obviously, this is a different season, so you want to just take this with a grain of salt, but I thought I'd still just mention it. Last season, 2024, we saw him have 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists in that matchup. Then Aaron Wiggins in 2025 actually had 18 points, 3 rebounds, and also 2 assists there. So, as I mentioned before, this is from last season, so you just want to take it with a grain of salt, but I definitely use this as some sort of, kind of leeway in a sense of taking a look at it, taking a peek, and kind of adjusting it to this season, but I thought I'd still mention it there. But looking at the pros and what they do have to say with it, however, and looking at that points and rebounds line, so we do have a little bit of a different line. We have him for 17.5, while the pros do have him for 16.5, so is a little bit different there, but what we also do see, even at 16.5, the bookies have him favored for the under. So that's kind of really, really good for us. The fact that they have him favored for the under even at 16.5, even though we have him for 17, that really just does set us up for a great kind of under for this situation here. When we look at the projection as well, projection is 12.9 for points and rebounds, which I think is fantastic to see. So they have him projected for the under as well. And when you look at the last 15 games, he's also gone on the under quite consistently. He's gone on the over in 33% of those matchups, so it's roughly gone on the under in 67% of those games. So definitely does check out to us. He's gone on the under more than on the over, and that's just kind of a no-brainer to us for sure. So coming into this matchup, we do very much like the under for someone like Aaron Wiggins here. So Aaron Wiggins, 17.5 points and rebounds for less, I think is a fantastic pick. So getting into the next pick, we're going to be talking about another Wiggins, and that is none other than Andrew Wiggins. So this one is a great one for actually points and rebounds for 19.5, and this one actually is for less. Now looking at Andrew Wiggins, we have seen him go on the under in 0 out of the last 5 games. Looking at those 5 games, you see on January 18th, faced off against Oklahoma City Thunder, had 20 points and rebounds there. January 20th, faced off against the Golden State Warriors, had 23 points and rebounds in that matchup, had 22 points and rebounds against Sacramento Kings on January 21st. January 23rd, faced off against Portland Trail Blazers, had 20 points and rebounds, and then 23 points and rebounds against Utah Jazz on January 25th. So very, very interesting to see from them there. Now, when we look at Wiggins, we also do know that his average over the last 5 is 21.6. So it is above this line as well. And Andrew Wiggins and Miami Heat face off against the Phoenix Suns. Now, it is definitely going to be an exciting game between both of these teams. Looking at where both these teams do lie, starting off with Miami. Miami actually come in at the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference. They have a record of 24 wins and 22 losses. That's a 52.2% win percentage there. They're also 15-7 from home, 9-15 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. So very, very interesting to see from them there. And looking at their matchup, which is none other than the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix do come in at the 6th spot in the Western Conference, and they have a record of 27 wins and 18 losses. So that's a 60% win percentage there. They're also 14-5 from home, 13-13 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So very interesting to see from Phoenix and also Miami. Both, I would say, are somewhat, evenly matched in some sense. Obviously, Suns do rank a little bit higher, but they are in a different conference. But looking at, this matchup more in depth and looking at where Phoenix do lie, we do see that Phoenix Suns, when it actually comes to points allowed, we see that the Phoenix Suns do rank, surprisingly in a really good position in the sense that not many people think they would be here, but they rank 5th, actually only allowing 111.8 points per game. So they actually do a great job there. When we look at rebounds allowed, we also do see that the Suns rank very decent, as they also rank 12th, allowing 43.4 rebounds per game. So they actually do a fantastic job at restricting points, at restricting rebounds, and that's a big reason why we do very much like the under for this one. Now, although Wiggins has been on a little bit of a hot streak as of lately, you do also have to realize that he has faced off against much easier teams, and someone like Wiggins has been able to just take advantage of it. But now that he has gone on the over in 5 out of the last 5 games, we do like the under due to the fact that we believe that the line now is super overinflated, and now there's a lot more value actually to go on the under. So coming into this matchup, we do very much like the under for this situation here. Now, when we look at also someone like Andrew Wiggins and the Miami and Phoenix matchup, when we look at the pace of this game, what we do also see is that when we look at Phoenix, they run a little bit more of a slower pace game compared to actually Miami. And coming into this matchup, we are expecting Phoenix to slow down the pace for Miami as much as they can. And as we've always mentioned, slower pace leads to less volume, and less volume leads to less opportunity to score, and then also in this case to also rebound. So overall, we are definitely liking the under for this situation here. When we look at also, someone like Wiggins, he is a forward, and Phoenix do a great job against his position. Now, when we look at Andrew Wiggins and his games against the Suns this season, we actually did see them face off, and this was actually on the 13th of January. So this is actually recent, which I think is great to see here, because looking at this, we do also know he had 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 assist in that matchup. So if we just look at that, he's actually gone on the under, based off this of points and rebounds, because he did only get 14 points and rebounds in total. So that's why coming into this next one, we do very much like the under for this situation here. Now, coming into this matchup, we do also know when it comes to Wiggins and looking at what the pros do have to say, when we scroll over to his line here for points and rebounds, we do see that they have him for 18.5. So it is a little bit of a different line there. So we can't really go off what the bookies are saying since it is a different line. But we do see that we are going against the projection here, because they have him projected for 21.2. So they have him projected for the over actually. However, as I mentioned before, we are going a little bit against the grain here and going on the under in this case. So that's why coming into this situation here, we do very much like the under for this one. Now, when we look at someone like Andrew Wiggins as well over the last 15, as I mentioned before, he has had a little bit of a hot streak, but I do have to mention that he has faced off against much easier teams. And because of that, we do very much like the under for this situation here, because now we do believe the line is super overinflated. There's a lot more value actually to go on the under. So when we look at all of these things, we definitely are liking the under, as I mentioned, for this situation. Now, when we also see, Wiggins over the last couple of games and the teams he's gotten under at, one of them was actually against Phoenix, as we've mentioned before. So, we did mention that game earlier, and that's one of the reasons why it definitely does show that Phoenix has a massive effect on Wiggins. And unfortunately, he may not be able to survive in this one. So we do like the under for it. So Andrew Wiggins, 19.5 points and rebounds for less, I think is a fantastic pick. All right, so let's get straight into the next pick. And getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about none other than Saddiq Bey. So Saddiq Bey, great player. And this one is actually for points, rebounds, and assists for 20.5. And this one actually is for more. Now, looking at Saddiq Bey, we actually have seen him go on the over in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, you see on January 15th, faced off against Brooklyn Nets, had 17 points, rebounds, and assists there. January 17th, faced off against Indiana Pacers, had a 25 PRA in that matchup, had a 17 points, rebounds, and assists against Houston Rockets on January 19th. Then January 22nd, faced off against Detroit Pistons and had 25 points, rebounds, and assists there. And then 44 points, rebounds, and assists against Memphis Grizzlies on January 24th. So very interesting to see. Obviously, looking at someone like Saddiq, we have seen him do a great job over the last couple of games. But what we also do know that his average over the last 5 is also 25.6, which is really interesting to see there. Now, looking at this matchup, we do also know that Saddiq Bey and the New Orleans Pelicans have themselves a very good matchup against none other than the San Antonio Spurs. Now, looking at the matchup between both of these teams, starting off with New Orleans Pelicans, Pelicans have had themselves a pretty tough season so far for sure, because they come in at the 15th spot in the Western Conference and they have a record of 11 wins and 36 losses. That's a 23.4% win percentage there. They're also 7-19 from home, 4-17 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. So very, very interesting to see there. Now, when it comes to the Pelicans, they face off against the San Antonio Spurs. And looking at the San Antonio Spurs in the matchup here, we do know that Spurs rank second in the Western Conference, and they have a record of 31 wins and 14 losses. That's a 68.9% win percentage there. And they're also 16-5 from home, 14-9 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. So very, very interesting to see there. Obviously, looking at someone like Saddiq Bey and the New Orleans Pelicans, they face off against a Spurs team that do rank very well, when it comes to that Western Conference. They are a very tough team, but looking at points, rebounds, and assists for Spurs, we do know, starting off with points allowed, we see that the Spurs do surprisingly rank 7th in the points allowed department. A lot of people thought they would rank higher, but they do rank 7th. But they still do a pretty good job actually allowing 112.6 points per game. So they don't really allow a lot of points there. Then looking at assists allowed, we also do know that the Spurs find themselves in an interesting position, ranking 12th, allowing 26.5 assists per game. And then rebounds allowed, Spurs also do rank very well, ranking 8th, allowing 42.8 rebounds per game. So very, very interesting to see there. Obviously, looking at, where Spurs do rank in all three categories, they do rank very well. So why do we like the over for someone like Saddiq Bey? And it really does come down to, when it comes to Saddiq, it really does come down to where we actually see Saddiq Bey as his position. Because of his position, which is usually that small forward position, San Antonio Spurs actually do a really poor job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the small forward position. And for that reason, we are definitely expecting the over for someone like Saddiq Bey coming into this game. Now, when we look at both of these teams, when it comes to their injuries, DeJounte Murray is out, Jose Alvarado for the Pelicans, and then Luke Cornett, and then David Jones-Garcia are also out for the Spurs. So not really any major injuries, but what we do really like with this one is first that when it comes to Saddiq Bey, we definitely have seen him over, the last couple of games have a very high usage rate for actually New Orleans Pelicans. I do believe it is a mixture of the game plan that they tend to start running, and it definitely has had a huge effect for Saddiq coming into these games. But also looking at that, we do also know that New Orleans Pelicans faced off against a San Antonio Spurs team that do a pretty poor job at restricting his position. But looking at Saddiq Bey over the last couple of games against Spurs this season, now he has played them already a couple of times. Now looking at these matchups, we did see on the 24th last year, he actually had 9 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists in that matchup. Then on the 8th of last year as well, in November, we saw them face off against each other. He had 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 4 assists there. So it is pretty interesting to see because he did go in the under in those first 2 games. And then most recently, on the 8th of December last year, had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists there. So, he did go in the over in that one. He did go in the under in the first 2. And as I mentioned before, I have definitely seen when it comes to New Orleans Pelicans, they have switched their sort of usage rate around, and we are starting to see Saddiq Bey have a little bit more usage rate, which is one of the reasons why in the most recent game against Spurs, we were able to finally see him go on the over. And although he did get somewhat close in those first 2, I do believe the change in minutes, the change in everything has definitely been a huge asset. And the way you can really definitely see that is when you look at the minutes he's played. In that most recent game, he played 36 minutes in that matchup, so that was absolutely huge for them, and that's one of the reasons why we do very much like the over, as we have seen that increase in his usage rate there. Now looking at Saddiq Bey, when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists, we see that they have him here for 21.5. So it is a little bit higher than our line. So for that reason, we can't really go off what the bookies are saying there. But what we do also see is that the projection that they do have is 18.8. So pretty interesting because they do have him actually for the under in this case. So 18.8 points, rebounds, and assists. However, we do very much like the over for this situation situation here for someone like Saddiq coming into this game. So for that reason, I definitely would keep an eye out for someone like Saddiq coming into this matchup. See a lot of value there to go on the over, especially with the way he has been playing as of lately. You know, when you look at those last 15 games, you do see he's gone on the over for this line in 66% of these matchups. 66. So that's quite a lot there. And for that reason, we are definitely liking the over for someone like Saddiq coming into this matchup for sure. He's coming off a massive game, having a 44 PRA against, Memphis Grizzlies, and we should see him do the same against the San Antonio Spurs. So for that reason, definitely keep an eye out for the over for this one. So Saddiq Bey, 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists for more, I think is a fantastic pick. All right, so let's get straight into the next one, and we're going to be talking about Zach LaVine for 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and this one is actually for less. Now, when we look at Zach, we actually have seen him go in the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, you see on January 17th, faced off against the Washington Wizards, had 21 points, rebounds, and assists there. Then January 19th, faced off against Portland Trailblazers, had 19 points, rebounds, and assists. Then 24 points, rebounds, and assists against Miami Heat on January 21st. January 22nd, faced off against Toronto Raptors, had 25 points, rebounds, and assists, and then had 10 points, rebounds, and assists against Cleveland Cavaliers on January 24th. So we actually have seen him go in the under quite consistently, and his average over the last 5 is also 19.8. Now, when we look at this matchup, we do also know that Sacramento Kings face off against the Detroit Pistons coming into this next game. And looking at where both of these teams do lie, starting off with the Kings come in at the 14th spot in the Western Conference, and they have a record of 12 wins and 34 losses. So that's a 26.1% win percentage there. On top of that, they are 9-16 from home, 3-18 from away, and are currently on a 4-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see from them there. Now, looking at Sacramento, they face off against the Detroit Pistons. And when we look at Detroit Pistons and the matchup here, we do also know that Detroit come in at the number 1 spot in the Eastern Conference. Now, they've been on an absolute roll, having 32 wins and 11 losses. That's a 74.4% win percentage there. And on top of that, they are 17-5 from home, 14-6 from away, and are currently on a 1-game losing streak. So very, very interesting to see from them there. And looking at the Detroit Pistons and the matchup against Sacramento, we do also see that Detroit Pistons do rank, starting off with points allowed. They do rank second, allowing 110.0 points per game. So they're one of 2 teams that actually allow 110 or less points. So they definitely are in a league of their own. They rank number 1 when it comes to assists allowed, only allowing 22.7 assists. And they are the only team to actually allow less than 24 assists, which is insane to see. And then Detroit ranked 4th in rebounds allowed, allowing 41.3 rebounds per game. So it's definitely very obvious that Detroit Pistons are a great defensive team, and they have shown this time and time again. And that's why coming into this matchup, we do very much like the under for this situation here for someone like Zach LaVine. Now, when we look at Zach, we also do know that LaVine has also struggled a little bit over the last 5 games, as we've mentioned. So the fact that Detroit not only do a great job at restricting, points, rebounds, and assists, we also do know that Zach himself and his usage rate out there has also suffered quite a bit as of recent. Now, Detroit do like to play a little bit more of a slower paced game compared to Sacramento. And that's why coming into this matchup, we do very, very much like the under, because as we always mention, slower paced game leads to less volume, and less volume leads to less opportunity to score, rebound, and play make. So we are expecting Detroit to slow down Sacramento as much as they can here. Now, when we look at Zach LaVine facing off against the Pistons, now a lot of this was actually from the seasons before, because this is actually from last season, and one of them was still even with him at Chicago. But looking at the game where he did play against them in a Chicago and Sacramento uniform, starting off with Chicago, had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists there, and against Sacramento had 43 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in that matchup. So as I mentioned, this is from last season, so it is a very, very different teams. Detroit are a lot better this season, so it is kind of difficult to go off this, but I thought I'd just still mention it, just in case. But when we look at what the pros do have to say about it, now they have him for 20 20.5, so it is slightly a little bit of a different line compared to us. But even at 20.5, they have him favored for the under as well. So it definitely works out in our favor there, because the fact that they have him favored for the under even at 20.5 means we even have a bigger likelihood for him to go on the under when it's at 21.5, which is what we have him at on PrizePicks. Now looking at Zach LaVine as well, we do also know that the projection that they do have is 25.4 points, rebounds, and assists. So they actually have him favored for the over. So we are going a little bit against that, coming into this matchup for sure. Now, when we look and adjust the last 15 games to our line, which is 21.5, we've actually seen him go on the under more than he's gone on the over. Now, he's gone on the under in roughly around 54% of those games. And that's why coming into this matchup, we do very, very much like the under for it. So we should see him do it once again coming into this game, especially against a very tough Detroit Pistons team. We don't really, unfortunately, see him going and doing very well, as Sacramento has struggled this season, while Pistons have been in great form. So for that reason, we are definitely liking the under for this one. So Zach LaVine for actually 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists for less, I think is a fantastic pick.